Yo, what is happening, guys? How are you doing? Welcome back to Rule of Two Review, and today is the day to finally do it. We're gonna lay down a couple of E3 predictions. So the day that this video is going up live on YouTube is the very day that EA will be taking the stage for their EA Play press conference. And that is exciting for one main reason, because it means E3 is finally beginning. Now, of course, it's not officially the first day of E3. That happens later after the weekend on Monday, but still, with EA doing their EA Play event on Saturday today, and then of course the next day on Sunday, Microsoft takes the stage for their own event at a completely separate location away from E3, this is still like the weekend, the week, the beginning of everything that is E3. And that is just like blowing my mind, man. I seriously cannot believe we're finally here. But that is the cool thing about E3, man. It always feels like it's like forever away. It's going to be an eternity before E3 comes back. And every single year, before you know it, we're here. It's finally happening. We're doing the thing. Everyone is finally ready to show us all these crazy cool things and hopefully have a bunch of surprises, give us details and information about games we're really excited to learn about, and just do the awesome thing. And so while this is technically EA's day, and I don't think many of us are very excited for EA's show, although I am hoping to learn about some quality Star Wars games, that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Nintendo today, because of course that's just what we do here. And with E3 officially starting in just a few days, Nintendo's press conference, of course, is happening on Tuesday, a couple of days from the day this video goes up. I wanted to discuss some more sort of hard predictions, and I shouldn't even really call them predictions. I guess it's more just discussions about some of the games, the titles, the things we know to expect, some of what we might expect, and have one or two sort of, I don't know, kind of wild card actual predictions I do want to throw out there. Okay, so getting started on what we know we can expect from Nintendo this year, let's talk about the big cheese, the big show. The main thing we know is going to be the huge focus and highlight of Nintendo's presence this year, and that is Super Smash Bros. That was confirmed a couple of months ago during the March Nintendo Direct, where they were like, hey, guess what? Super Smash Bros. Is officially coming. It's going to be a 2018 game, which is just so insane, and that is so indicative of like this awesome kick-ass new Switch era Nintendo, that they're able to do something as amazing as announce a Smash Bros. And say, hey, before the end of the year, in probably like 6 months, the game is going to be releasing. And it's a Smash Brothers game. Like, there is so much that goes into those games to make them work properly and run so incredibly well the way they do. We know that this time they need to have easily the best online network they've ever had for a Smash Brothers game. And so here we are, man. This is what they're going to do. We know that the Smash Brothers Invitational is going to be a big focus of the show, and I think that that's cool. That's exciting. Like, I mentioned this on a video recently, the invitationals and the competitions and stuff, they're not like my favorite thing about like E3 or what's going to be happening this week. I don't always have the time or the patience or the attention span to be able to follow one of these competitions all the way to the end, but they are cool. I do like to tune into them, don't get me wrong. I do think that they're cool. And like I said before, it's a great example of Nintendo coming to something like E3 and also bringing people together to play games, to experience games together in like a group sort of setting. And I just think it's so cool that they're doing that. But as far as the game, I mean, I guess it's tough to talk about what to expect from the game, and I don't really have any hard predictions. I probably could have like created a list of characters I expect to show up in the game, but that's really hard to do, man. I do feel like they're going to say, here are a couple of, you know, already established like legacy characters. We know they're going to show us Link and Mario and Samus and Peach and Luigi and Bowser and, you know, a couple of other staples, some of the Fire Emblem characters. They will show us those characters, and they're probably going to show us, I would say, between 2 and 4 new characters that we have never seen before. One of the things I do expect in this game, whether or not they show it at E3, who knows, but I absolutely expect Ice Climbers to come back. I did predict that a couple of months ago, or I should say right after they revealed the game at the Nintendo Direct. And so, yeah, I think they're just going to do that. They're going to show a couple of new characters, show some old characters, give us an idea of what the game looks like, how the engine feels, obviously let a lot of people get their hands on with it, which is going to be fantastic. I expect a lot of positive buzz coming out of the show about Smash Brothers. It's going to be the big focus, and it's going to sell like crazy when that game comes out, man, which is just so exciting. Like, Nintendo is just knocking these games out, man. They're doing such a fantastic job with that. I think it would be nice to get sort of an idea of some of the newer modes. I mean, they've got to have some more exciting modes in this Smash Brothers than Smash Tour on the Wii U version last time. That was just That just doesn't cut it. No one loved it. I hated it. Most people didn't like it. Like I said, I did love Smash Run on the 3DS version, so I'd like to see Smash Run kind of make its way to the Switch version in some new form. Obviously, if they have like another campaign mode like Subspace Emissary, it would be smart of them to highlight that as well, and I would expect they would. New functions and features, maybe weird Joy-Con control things. Maybe they have like a 20-player match instead of, you know, they went up to 8-player match before. I don't even know. That's probably impossible, but they're going to have to detail some of those cool things. So when it comes to Smash, I mean, I think that's what we can expect. Of course, the other big game I do want to talk about is Fire Emblem, which I've mentioned a couple of times on recent E3 videos over the past 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, this has to be the time for Fire Emblem, right? We need to see this game. We need to understand what this game is doing. We need to get the final name of the game. Is it going to have any previous characters that we've seen in other games before? I doubt it. That's not typically what they do with the Fire Emblem game, but maybe this is something that they're going to do with this and actually try to make it more of a direct sequel, in a sense, to previous games. What mechanics of previous games are going to be included? What new mechanics are going to be included? On my Q&A video from a couple of days ago, I discussed, you know, how Nintendo might want to change up the Fire Emblem formula, because that seems to be what Nintendo is very into doing in the Switch era. They changed up Zelda, they changed up Mario, there are rumors they're attempting to change up Pokemon. I expect some changes in Metroid, and I think Fire Emblem is probably going to be the same thing. It's a very fine line with Fire Emblem, because some things have to be present in the game. It has to be a strategy sort of experience, turn-based RPG experience. You can't change that element of Fire Emblem, but I'm sure there are other things you can do. And again, on my Q&A video, I even theorized about, oh, maybe they can give us some sections where you actually control your character in a 3D space, and sort of like an action game between the actual strategy turn-based combat sections, and things like that would be a pretty big shift for like a console Fire Emblem game. And we haven't seen a console Fire Emblem game since the Wii Radiant game, which I think was... That one, I think, would have been Radiant Dawn, because I think Path of Radiance was the GameCube and Radiant Dawn was the Wii, but I might have those backwards, so don't yell at me if I'm wrong. Either way, that Wii game, to my knowledge, was the last console Fire Emblem game. So, I mean, I'm going to basically predict we're going to get information about Fire Emblem. I've said this before, I think there's a slight chance that the game might be slipping to 2019, and so maybe Nintendo wouldn't talk about it for that reason. But I'm really hoping that instead they just reconfirm, yes, this is a 2018 game. You know, Smash might be October, so maybe Fire Emblem becomes November. I could actually see Fire Emblem being a December game, because they've done their previous JRPGs, the Xenoblade games, in December. Maybe they want to continue that trend and make the console Fire Emblem sort of take that RPG kind of slot for Nintendo. I mean, I don't know. That's going to be my weird prediction for Fire Emblem. It's going to be a December release for the Nintendo Switch. I mean, I'd like it earlier, but that's what they might do. And what about Yoshi? I mean, Yoshi has to be discussed, right? I think Yoshi is a slam dunk to get detailed at E3 this year, and I also think it's a slam dunk for a 2018 title. That's not getting delayed either. I believe that when they first showed us those games, they did say, hey, it's going to be a 2018 game, and we'll discuss it later alongside of Kirby. Kirby is now come and gone. It's time for Yoshi, man. Yoshi has to shine. I am so excited for Yoshi, guys. Like, Kirby doesn't really get me excited or appeal to me too much. I did enjoy the demo for Star Allies enough. It's a very well-crafted game, but it's just not my kind of world or gameplay style. As far as the way the 2D sort of platforming in Kirby works, it doesn't work for me. Yoshi does, though. I really like what Nintendo has done with previous Yoshi games. Woolly World on the Wii U was freaking awesome. And to see this new version of Yoshi, this cardboard Yoshi, is so great. Obviously, people have discussed, is there going to be Labo connection and Labo support for Yoshi because of the cardboard aesthetic? I mean, they'd be silly not to find some way to tie the games into each other, but of course, they can't make Yoshi reliant on Labo. And Nintendo is smart, they're not going to do that. So I would expect for them to detail or discuss in some ways how Labo will work with Yoshi, if that's true. So hopefully we can look forward to that. But more than anything, let's really understand this new Yoshi game. Let's get some ideas and some gameplay demos, and let's get that date. Show us it is a 2018 game. Another game that I have to talk about, and I know some of you might even be sick of me talking about it, but yo, this is the big daddy. This is my life's blood. I've got to discuss this a little bit on this video. It's Metroid Prime 4. What the hell is going to happen with Metroid at E3? I mean, nobody knows. I don't know. That's why my last video was trying to calm myself and everyone else's nerves about if we don't see the game this year, because so many of us are very invested in this game. So that's why it's hard to make official predictions about what I think is going to happen with Metroid Prime 4 at E3. I'm just going to wager a few guesses. I think that's the safest thing for me to do. I'm going to guess that we probably will see the game at the show. I am expecting to see or hear from Metroid Prime 4 in some fashion at the show. And it could be just another tease for next year. It could be, I've said this so many times, it could be a 30 or second little sort of gameplay reel that's sort of teasing the game, and they're going to say, we'll give you info, you know, sometime later. They could just completely pull the veil off of that game, because the game is going to be confirmed for 2018, and it's coming out in 4 months, and so here's everything you need to know about it. They could do any one of those things. And I think that it's going to be exciting either way. I don't know, something tells me that even if it's a 2019 game, which I am still predicting 2019 for Metroid Prime 4, even if it is, I just feel like it's a game that Nintendo won't miss an opportunity to talk about at E3. And again, because they could probably just blurb the name out and people will get excited. If they say, hey, we're going to give you a Nintendo Direct next month about Metroid Prime 4, that's enough. Everyone's going to be excited because we're going to know Metroid is coming. But I do honestly think we're going to see something from the game at the show, which is very, very exciting. Now, alongside of this comes the other prediction and discussion, which is the Metroid Prime trilogy, which I've been talking about for literally a year. I want it known that I'm sure I'm one of the first people on YouTube or Twitter or anywhere going back a year, like within months after E3 last year, I was already talking about the Metroid Prime trilogy coming to the Switch. I wasn't the only one, but I was one of the first. And it's like, if that happens, it's going to be so exciting, you guys. And so maybe that's something else that happens at E3. Maybe they confirm, hey, Metroid Prime 4, yes, it's a 2018 title or 2019 title. Here's 60 seconds of some gameplay just to kind of get you drooling, but then nope, we're gonna pull it back and you're gonna have to wait till later. But because we know how much you love Metroid and Samus and you're really excited, we are in fact releasing an HD remaster of the Metroid Prime trilogy on the Nintendo Switch this year in 2018 to satiate your need for more Metroid. So I will throw that out as a prediction, which is a very hazardous prediction because I don't really know that there's a great chance it happens, but I've been saying it for a while. I want it. It makes sense. A lot of other people think it makes sense as well, so I'm just going to make the statement. I think we might actually get the Metroid Prime trilogy at E3 this year. Now let's talk about a couple of unconfirmed games when it comes to Switch and Nintendo at E3 this year. Animal Crossing. Are we going to see Animal Crossing this year? You know, I want to say yes, and so I'm barely going to say yes. I think Animal Crossing will get a surprise appearance at the show this year, and I think it's one of the few major surprises that might actually show, because Nintendo can't reveal every surprise game and every surprise franchise or leaked thing at E3. They're going to need surprises for later in the year for their own Nintendo Directs. Nintendo does that, whereas the other companies really don't. So they're not going to want to show all their cards and play their full hand at E3. They got to have a few surprises. They have to. Metroid Prime 4 would technically count as a surprise, even though it's already been confirmed as a game that they're making. The other huge one, and I've been saying it for a while, is Animal Crossing. I'm starting to get nervous about committing to Animal Crossing, at least as far as it's showing up at E3. But I think I feel confident enough that I'm going to say, yeah, we probably are going to hear from Animal Crossing at E3. I don't know that it's going to be a 2018 title like I was thinking earlier in the year, but I mean, that remains to be seen. I'm not going to try to predict the release year, but it's time for Animal Crossing. I think that where we are in the Switch's life, if Nintendo was willing to show us that they're making an Animal Crossing now to release within the next year, it just feels right. It feels like the time for Animal Crossing to make that big return. Since we didn't get a true Animal Crossing game last generation on the Wii U, we got Amiibo Festival, which made everybody really angry. And, you know, Nintendo last year was like, okay, we've been making everyone angry with Metroid for a while, so here, we are making this next Metroid game. Boom, now you're all excited. Well, with Animal Crossing, hey, we've been making everyone mad with what we did with Animal Crossing 2. Apologies. Boom, here's the next Animal Crossing coming to Switch. Maybe 2018, maybe 2019. They said they're only talking about 2018 games this year, so who knows when it comes to the dates. But I don't know, man. I'm not even an Animal Crossing fan. You guys have heard me say it's not for me. I'm not interested. I won't be buying it. But, I mean, I just feel like that game has to show up. And so, yeah, I feel like we're probably going to see it at E3. Okay, now the next game is a tricky one. Let's discuss Star Fox, the Star Fox Grand Prix, the thing that apparently Retro Studios is working on, the big rumor and quote leak that came out a couple of weeks ago. What's going on with that game? Is that something we should expect at E3? So here's the thing. I'm going to say no. I don't think that we should expect this game to be shown at E3. However, I am going to say that I kind of do still believe this rumor. I don't know why. It feels right. It sounds right. The things that we've all seen and heard leak-wise, some of the things I've even seen and heard behind the scenes that I'm not going to discuss here. While I don't have any thing confirmed that I'm keeping a secret, I absolutely do not know for fact one way or another, but I just have a feeling, and I've seen and heard enough things that I don't know, I just feel like this is a real thing. And so I feel like this is the kind of game that does make sense for a surprise after E3, and less sense to be shown at E3. It's like, okay, maybe they're going to give us Animal Crossing at E3, but they're going to hold the Star Fox Racing for a Nintendo Direct later. They could reverse those. They could do the Star Fox Racing at E3 and do Animal Crossing later. It could be one or another. I'm just hazarding my own guess. I'm going to state Animal Crossing will be there, probably, and the Star Fox thing won't be there, probably. But I do believe that that is the game that they're making. Now, this whole prediction could just completely fall apart if it turns out that it's not true. And the one benefit to it not being true for me is that if Retro isn't making this Star Fox Racing and the whole thing is just a big hoax and it's not real, then that means that we better damn well see what Retro is making at E3. That's the biggest problem of not seeing this Star Fox Racing at E3 if it's real, is that we would still be waiting to hear from Retro Studios. And that will drive us bonkers. I will be like, oh my god, show us Retro. Like, what have these dudes been doing this whole time? And so I'm excited about the Star Fox Racing idea, guys. I've bought in. I'm open-minded and willing to give it a shot. And so it just depends on what's really happening there. Is the game real or is it not? If it's real, my prediction is we won't see it at E3 and it'll show up at a Direct later. If it's not real, then we got to see what Retro's been doing this whole time. Now, also a recent rumor and a leaked photo of Nintendo's E3 booth setup is hinting towards Dragon Ball FighterZ and Fortnite. So are those going to be discussed this year? Should we expect these games? I mean, I'm going to say, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, you know. DBZ has been rumored behind the scenes for the Switch for a while. I mentioned this before. I was hearing about that even last year, that this game will be coming. Don't worry. It's a plan. And this leak seems to make us think that it's going to happen. That game makes so much sense for the Switch. I think it's a shame that it could be launching like within a year after it originally launched on the other consoles. I think it would have had a better chance if it launched day and date. But it is what it is. So I'm tending to believe this. So I'm going to go with, yeah, I think we'll see Dragon Ball Z. Fortnite, oh my god, man. Like the worst kept secret in the world, right? Everyone knows this game is basically coming. The Switch was even hacked and people saw like an eShop icon for the game. There's 1,000 things that point to Fortnite coming. Not to mention just logical common sense. Why wouldn't you put this game on the Switch? You're going to make so much money. So really quick and simple, yeah, I believe we're going to see both of these games. Now, one last thing I want to discuss before I get to my 2 wildcard predictions that I'm going to make in this video is Star Wars. I don't really know even why I'm talking about this, but I think it's just because I'm a Star Wars guy. And I want to have this conversation super quickly and spend a minute or two talking about it. Is EA going to be showing us Star Wars games basically hours after this video goes live, like today, at E3 this year? Are they showing us Star Wars games? They should be. They need to be. They might not, which is really going to be frustrating regardless of the platform, but they should be. So let's hope that EA shows us 1 or 2 of the new Star Wars games that they've been working on. Let's also pretend that in a crazy world, maybe they actually look good and they're not making stupid mistakes like they did with the launch of Battlefront 2. That would be fantastic. And so then my question becomes, for this video, is EA going to pull their heads out of their ass and release a Star Wars game on the Nintendo Switch? And now I know it's like an oxymoronical statement to say EA pulling their head out of their ass, because let's be real, those guys always have their heads up their butts. It's just what they do. So obviously none of us should probably expect that. But you know what? I still want to talk about it because I want more Star Wars games. I want good Star Wars games. And I think that those games, or some of them, need to make it onto the Switch. This device is screaming for a Star Wars game. An incredible Star Wars experience. And Nintendo fans and Switch owners who are willing to buy and play everything in droves on the Switch will give EA so much money if a Star Wars game, a good Star Wars game, I have to add that amendment every time, if a good Star Wars game is put on the Switch, oh my lordy, they will make so much money. We will support that. I will support the hell out of that. And so I don't expect this, you guys. It's too much of a wishful thinking. Too many dominoes have to fall in the right place, and EA is not good at playing dominoes. So I don't expect this to happen, but I had to just barely touch on this. Okay, now to finish this out, I have 2 wild card predictions when it comes to Nintendo. These probably won't happen, but that's why you throw out a wild card, because you're basically you're just rolling the dice, man. Like, it's so unlikely that if you get the prediction right, it was that much cooler that you were right. And so again, and a reminder, I have always made sure not to build my reputation on YouTube as a guy who's trying to get predictions right. There are some people who that's how they bank on their reputation and their personality on YouTube. They're all about predictions, and that's fine. Like, getting predictions right is great. For me, I'm just having fun. These wild card predictions are only having fun, right or wrong. It's just to have fun. So anyway, so my first one is, you've heard me say this a couple of times before, Overwatch on the Switch. I think this game makes so much sense, and I've also been saying this since early last year. And so, you know what? I think it might happen eventually, and I think that this might be the time and place to do it. E3 this week. Why the hell not? I'm just going to throw it out there. Overwatch on Switch. We might see it happen. I think the game's going to come. Throw it on E3, just like they did with Rocket League last year, and there's another one, I'm brain farting now. You know, these kinds of games that are very, like, online community-based, like third-party games, like Rocket League or Fortnite, Paladins that was just confirmed, these games make sense. Paladins is essentially seen as almost an Overwatch direct competitor, so if those guys are putting their game on Switch, they know that there's a market and a business there, and why wouldn't Blizzard want to do the same thing with Overwatch? So I don't know. I know some people worry about whether or not the game is possible on Switch. I think the Switch is a magic machine, and anyone who puts the time and money and effort into making their game work on the console will get it to work. Doom has shown that. Wolfenstein is going to be showing that, and I think a game like Overwatch could continue to show that. So it's my first wildcard prediction. I think we just might see Overwatch on the Switch. Now, my last wildcard prediction. This is a big one, and I hope that everyone makes it to the end of this video to hear this, because I feel weirdly good about this. And it has to do with Metroid Prime 4, okay? On my Q&A, I was asked a question about Metroid, and I sort of related it to Metroid Prime 4, and it got me thinking quite a bit about the nature of the idea. And then I had to play Metroid Prime 3 to record a little bit of footage for the last video that I made, and in doing so, I ran across the thing that basically started this conversation a long time ago, and I was like, dude, this makes so much sense. So what am I talking about when it comes to Metroid at E3? It's Metroid Dread. Yes, I know, the crazy vaporware, weird, stupid thing that, like, was a game but wasn't really a game, and we never really know what the plan was, and we think we're never going to see it. It's just dead in the water. Metroid Dread. This is my theory, my wildcard prediction. And to be fair, this applies to Metroid Prime 4 even if it's not at E3 this week. But I gotta talk about this, you guys. And I did say, I was asked a question about Metroid Dread, and I did talk about, you know, I think we're gonna see the name of Metroid Dread resurrected at some point in our lifetime. And I said, oh, you know, maybe there's a weird thing where they reveal Metroid Prime 4 to truly be Metroid Dread. Wouldn't that be crazy? Almost as like a half-assed, sort of like a jokey thing. But you know what? I actually think that makes a lot more sense than when I was joking about it on my Q&A. And the main reason is, when I was replaying Metroid Prime 3 to get some footage the other day, I was in the same area where you scan that one little thing at the Pirate Homeworld, and you get the thing about Metroid Dread. Metroid Project Dread is nearing final stages of completion, which is one of the things that started the whole sort of reveal about Metroid Dread, which, as far as I think we know, was an official thing that was being worked on before it fell apart behind the scenes. And I just was thinking about that again, and I made a Twitter post about it. And I was like, man, I think that this actually makes more sense. This would be a huge surprise for Nintendo to just drop this on everyone and be like, boom, Metroid Dread has returned. Metroid Prime 4 truly is Metroid Dread. Or Metroid Dread is like an enemy within the game. And so the subtitle to Metroid Prime 4 is Metroid Prime 4 Dread, or Metroid Dread, or whatever the case. it makes sense. And the reason it made sense to me after playing Metroid Prime 3 the other day is I was like, wait a minute. I know it's been 11 years since Metroid Prime 3 came out, but we're all forgetting the fundamental narrative aspect here, which is that Metroid Prime 4, even though it's been 11 years, will be a sequel to Metroid Prime 3. And so in Metroid Prime 3, no matter how long it's been, there was this weird little plot element in this thing you scan about Metroid Dread. So what if Nintendo's plan with Metroid Prime 4 is to resurrect this Dread idea out of their 11-year-old game and now make it the 4th game? Why else would they make the 4th game? My whole thing about Metroid Prime 4 has been like, why are you making a Metroid Prime 4? I thought you ended the story with Prime 3. Yes, there was the tease of Sylux at the end of the credits, which I think will also play a factor here. But also, I think Metroid Dread is the other thing. And I think that at this point they know, even if Metroid Dread was originally conceived as a different thing, like a DS or a GBA game, whatever it was at the time that it was being made, and it was just supposed to be something else, what if they were like, we know how to bring back the idea of Metroid Dread. And it's like an Easter egg from 10 years ago that will actually be the most incredible reward for diehard Metroid fans ever if we pull that Easter egg out of Metroid Prime 3 and make it the focus and the title and the main antagonist of Metroid Prime 4. And that's our MacGuffin for creating Metroid Prime 4. And that's just so cool. I don't know. At this point, I'm just excitedly rambling like a Metroid nerd, but like, it just makes sense to me. And so anyway, the reason this becomes my wild card prediction, let me bring this back in and rein this video in, is because that's my wild card prediction. If we see Metroid Prime 4 revealed at E3, and if Nintendo is trying to give us really good solid details about Metroid Prime 4 this year, I think we're going to see Metroid Dread as like the name or the main part of that game. Whatever it is, Metroid Dread is going to be a part of Metroid Prime 4, and I know it sounds crazy, and it's probably wrong and a dumb thing, but I can't stop thinking about it, and so that's my wild card prediction. It's happening. Okay, and with that out of the way, I think I'm done, man. That's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about, kind of predicting and discussing what's going to happen with Nintendo at E3 this year. Again, I'm recording this several days before their conference, and it's going to go live, 3 days before they actually hold their Nintendo Direct. So there's a lot of times for things to change. Maybe my opinions change, maybe things come out and confirm otherwise, and whatever. But like I said, I'm just having fun here. We're all just having fun. It's great to be excited about E3. I can't wait for everyone's show. Nintendo's is always the top of my list. I cannot wait to see what they're going to do. So hopefully you found this discussion and some of these predictions fun. So I also want to hear you guys talk about it. What do you think about all the games and the theories and the predictions and the things that I discussed in this video? What do you think about that Metroid Dread prediction? Am I crazy or does it make a lot of sense to you? I want to hear what you have to say. And that is going to be it. Everyone enjoy E3, EA's conference today, Nintendo's conference in a couple of days. The whole week, I'll be making many videos and doing a couple of live streams, so you guys can look forward to that. But I think that's going to be it for me today. So thanks as always for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Ro2R Review, and I'll catch you next time on another E3 video.